Hi, everyone. Hans Riemer here. Number of items on our agenda. The Fed Committee just completed a discussion about wireless infrastructure, the future of mobile communications in the county, and how to zone for the infrastructure that will be necessary not only to further extend 4G, but for what will be coming before too long with 5G. So it's been a very challenging issue. It's been about 2 years worth of discussion at the council, and the committee has just made a recommendation to the full council. So we will now take that up at full council and look forward to working our way through that. It's been, as I said, very challenging. A couple other issues. We are going to be taking up again the wineries and farm breweries, cideries, distilleries zoning proposal that is before the council, and we had a good discussion last week. There are a number of amendments that are in the packet that I've been working on with the industry and with my colleagues, and they address a lot of the different concerns that we've heard from people, and I hope that, well, I'm certainly here to answer any questions about them, and I hope that the council will enact the proposal to really open the doors to the industry and to embrace the industry and to say, we want wineries here, we want farm breweries here. This is why we have an ag reserve. This is the kind of use that we always intended to support agriculture. There is a bill in that I am the lead sponsor on, which is really a technical correction in my mind, which is around the minimum wage. And we have learned that there are some businesses that are hiring people as at the minimum wage, and they've discovered that the statutory minimum wage is not what the council intended in our previous legislation, that it actually, there's sort of a loophole and it defaults to the state minimum wage, and so this is just intended to patch that up and keep the bill that we, keep the intended law that we passed setting the minimum wage, including businesses below 10 employees, all at the same kind of level. So that's kind of a technical correction bill. There's legislation in this week around a outdoor smoking ban, which I think gets to something that many of us have experienced, which is you go to a restaurant to enjoy outdoor seating and someone near you lights up, and it's really obnoxious, and it's a health issue, and it's it's an issue about smoking fundamentally, and to what extent we continue to allow it. So Councilmember Katz has introduced legislation that would make that, take away that issue. We also have a bill that I think the committee has done some great work on, respecting our sanitation workers and their ability to get paid the living wage. And there is legislation has been legislation before the council that would essentially allow a service company, a trash hauling company, to get reimbursed for a compensation increase if it's negotiated. We kind of worked through some various aspects of that, and I think we've got a good bill to send to the full council, so we'll be taking that up. But it's just intended to make sure that our trash haulers and our recycling haulers, who are people doing a really hard job, they do a really great job, that they are getting the compensation that we believe that they deserve and that they negotiate for. The T&E committee is going to be taking up the bike plan today, so we've had some good discussion about that, and we're going to continue working that through and hopefully get that passed soon. And as you probably know, there's an issue with MCFRS and expenditures that we will have the Public Safety Committee reviewing soon to try to get some of those expenditures back to the budgeted level. So those are some of the items that are before us this week, and be happy to take any questions.
I can jump right in.
Go ahead.
So Metro's Board of Directors approved a salary increase for the general manager, Paul Wiedefeld. There's been criticism, why is he getting a pay increase when Metro's still not back to good? Just from your general background knowledge as to how Metro's been going, what do you think of that decision?
I think Paul Wiedefeld has done a fantastic job. Obviously, we still have a work in progress here with Metro, no question about it, but we've been able to enact a significant long-term finance reform for Metro that I think over time is going to really put us back to the system that we once had. And I think Wiedefeld it certainly deserves a lot of credit for helping us get to that point. I think he knows that it's not satisfactory. I don't think there's really anyone doing more to press the system for reform than Paul Wiedefeld. So he certainly has my confidence as the general manager.
So with MCPS officials are making a very serious move right now. They're looking at redrawing the boundaries of the MCPS school district. A number of officials have taken up the fact that with 162,000 kids, a lot of them with the best results seem to be mostly white, where other ones with other issues seem to be, have more cultural diversity, and there's a very serious move to redraw those lines and do some things with the boundaries to try and fix that, and saying that the students will do better if the school and those students around are more diverse. What do you think of that move, and do you think there's an issue there that does need to be looked at to that end?
Yes, I do. I think that all kids are better off going to school with a student body that reflects the community that we have in this county, across the entire county, and that reflects the community that this country is becoming. And I think students get a better education when their peer group is really reflective of the people they will work with and live with for the rest of their lives. And I think that in general, I think it's a good thing for the school system to push to have diverse schools across the board. And I've worked hard on that issue from my angle, working on, for example, our legislation around affordable housing and raising a requirement for how much housing must be set aside into our affordable programs in communities that are very expensive, which are often less diverse. And the point being to promote economic integration. And I think that is a fundamental social good. And I think we ought to pursue economic and social integration in our schools. And I know that the school system is taking up, its boundary policy, and they've stressed that they believe that diversity is important in their boundary drawing. And I think that's positive. I think most people would agree that, kids are better off in classrooms that reflect the community that they live in, and that all kids succeed and are more likely to succeed when you don't have communities that are concentrated with poverty and communities that have, very little poverty. That doesn't serve the broader interest.
Can you talk about the FCC's decision last week on the small cell?
Yeah.
They made a say on the shock clock and everything. How does that affect?
Yeah. Well, it's an attempt to curtail our local rights and to remove the local government from making decisions about the infrastructure. And we are going, I am certainly urging us to join with other local governments and challenge that FCC order in court. I think that we will likely do that. I know the executive is considering, and I believe supports that as well. But it also speaks to the need to pass our own ordinance, because if the core of our argument in court would be that the FCC's action is arbitrary and is unnecessary. And in order to really fulfill that argument, we need to have evidence that it is unnecessary and arbitrary. And that's based on having our own code that fulfills the intent of the federal law to allow deployment within a reasonable framework about where we draw the line. So the ordinance that the Fed Committee has just adopted and recommended to the full council, I think, does a great job of striking that balance of allowing deployment while protecting neighborhoods. And if we pass it, then we'll be in a much better position to fight off that federal preemption in court, as well as in the state legislature, where there's other and different attempts to take away our local authority.
What do you make of the argument that the FCC is just going to do whatever it wants to do? It's not going to take in Montgomery County because it has some rules for the whole country. So this debate over small cell towers and this bill is kind of irrelevant, because the FCC is going to make a decision in the next couple of weeks or months, potentially, that could just make all this.
Yeah, I've heard that comment. To me, that's sort of rolling over and playing dead, And I think this county can do better than roll over and play dead. I think we ought to fight. And the way to fight is to people to buck up and do their job and pass an ordinance that reflects our best understanding of the rules and gets the job done. So, that's what the ordinance is that the Fed committee, passed out a committee today that the executive worked on. 2 years we've been working on this. And every issue is known, every amendment has been considered. And I think we've got a good ordinance. And our best argument in court to overturn or block the FCC order is going to be a demonstration that we can do this job ourselves. And it's the same thing in the state legislature. Our best argument in the Maryland legislature is that Montgomery County can do this job and has done it. And my understanding is that other jurisdictions are in Maryland are now looking to us. Prince George's County is looking to us. Other counties in the state are looking to us and our ordinance, and they're saying, we're going to get on board, and we want to do something like that too. So this is how it works. This is the role of leadership in adopting a zoning ordinance that is smart and embraces the future but protects the communities as well.
So going to court, like where, how soon is that gonna happen? Are you following along?
Soon, yeah, we don't have the line. We have 90 days
Okay.
to file, so it's imminent. And so we need to enact the ordinance in time for for filing our challenge as well.
On the alcohol production bill, there was a letter sent from the Sugarloaf Citizens Association last week threatening a potential legal challenge if the bill is passed in its current form, and the agritourism study is conducted. There was also another letter from the mayor of Barnesville. Have you or have the council have any contact with those parties?
Oh, sure, yeah, lots. We've been talking to all those parties along the way. Lots and lots of negotiation, discussion, input, feedback, and there are new amendments in what the council will consider tomorrow that I think are responsive to a lot of those issues. So hopefully we'll get to a good place there.
Do you think the number of events, as it stands now in the bill at 9 to 225 people, is that firm, hard and fast?
Well, that's the current code. The current code is you can do events that are, you can have up to 9 events of unlimited size. And, some people have talked about how we don't want to allow, Woodstock festivals, Woodstock scale festivals. Well, the current code actually does allow that. So one of the elements of the proposal that I've offered is really trying to be a little clearer about what type of events are permissible and what are not. And to say that events that are really part of the business of making wine, selling to people who are drinking wine, is what we're going for. We're not going for music festivals, that sort of use the name wine in them. I think that, again, I think the amendments that I have now are responsive to the concerns about keeping that tie in with agriculture. For example, one of the amendments is that a brewery must, in the agricultural reserve, must have at least 25 acres, which is the minimum size of a residential property. I think it makes sense to be the minimum size for a farm that has a brewery on it, and that ensures you there's a lot of acreage that's being farmed, whether for ingredients or for other farming purposes. There's also a recommendation for a 1 acre local ingredient growing requirement on each farm brewery. So we're trying to, again, be responsive to the concerns that we've heard, and I think we're crafting a better zoning change as a result of that feedback, and I hope that we'll be able to pass that tomorrow.
If I can go back to the idea of diversifying different parts of the county, redrawing the boundaries, what would you have to say to parents who would be concerned about their kid having beach bus, like, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes, I'm just guessing here, across the county to the diverse?
Well, listen, I wouldn't draw conclusions about what any kid, what any child's circumstance or any school. I mean, I think the point is that the school system needs to continue to push towards drawing boundaries that are inclusive of the community that we live in, and we have capacity needs in the county where we have schools that are, lots of empty desks in some parts and schools that are overcrowded in others. So, I don't think it's helpful to start, invoking the history of busing and stuff like that from the 70s. I don't know that that's what anyone's talking about. The point is, this is directional. We do believe that boundaries are part of the conversation, and that the school system, I believe, I'm just speaking for myself here, I believe that the school system should indeed consider having schools where the student population reflects the county that we live in.
Okay, I was just saying, because in Rockville or Twin Brook, there was a discussion as to whether, like, how to deal with some, I think, overcrowding issues, and there's only so many ways you can get a kid from one school to the one that's farther away if their parent doesn't have a car, for example. But,
Yeah, well, about half of the students in the county take the bus, so, you know, that's a normal type of transportation. But it's again, we're not getting, I'm not adjudicating any particular schools.
Sure.
There are boundaries here, I just asked for feedback on the very broad question. And I think that it is a good thing for the county to have schools where the student body reflects the community that we live in and the community of the future. And I think students benefit from that, so.